Hi, so welcome to the Master Yoga class. We're going to talk a little bit of an Ayurvedic approach here as far as looking at our bodies and when we have signs of depletion. How does it show up? What does it look like in the different tissues of the body? So I'm going to go over, we have what they call 7 different tissues in the body. And the first one is the plasma, which, by the way, is ruled by kapha. That's just a little side note. Kapha, remember, is made up of water and earth. So plasma should have plenty of moisture. It needs that. But when it doesn't, what happens is you will start to feel dehydrated. You will start to have restlessness. I'm just going to go through some of the things here, like tics and palpitations, chest pain, cardiac pain, so like angina, exhaustion, but you don't really have a reason for why you're exhausted. You're just always exhausted, like chronic fatigue. That means that there is a deficiency. There is an imbalance in the plasma. Don't have enough kapha. Also irritation to loud noises, can't handle it at all. So my niece used to wear earmuffs, you guys. She used to wear earmuffs, and she lives in California, like in San Jose, where it's never cold. And she literally wore earmuffs for 3 straight years because she was so vata vitiated. That means that when you get depleted and you don't have enough kapha in the plasma, it's called a vata imbalance, a vata vitiation. So you have to start paying attention to. If you have any of those things going on, it means that that particular tissue of your body is depleted. And we gotta help you rejuvenate and fill up the plasma, help you hydrate again. Okay, so the next tissue is the blood. And when the blood gets depleted, it'll show up as dryness in the body, roughness. So like the skin, it just feels rough. Skin cracks. So people who get cracks in their heels of their feet, that is a sign that there's a depletion in the blood, in the tissue of the blood. And also loss of luster. So you start losing like the redness in your cheeks. You start just looking pale. And blood is ruled by pitta and the fire element. Okay, so that makes sense, right? You need it provides heat. So if you've got any of those things going on, it's a sign that that tissue, the blood tissue, is depleted. Okay, moving on, muscle. So the muscle, what shows up when you have depletion with muscle, you basically start becoming weak. And you start getting thin, like you lose muscle tone, usually in the butt, the gluteal muscles, in the neck and the abdomen. So you start just looking very frail. And that's a sign that you have a depletion in your muscles, right? You can't get tone back. You can't build strength, okay? Moving on, the next tissues are fat, the fat tissue. And a sign that you have depletion in the fat tissue or an imbalance is cracking of the joints, so popping. And then issues with your eyes. Also overly thin, so it's similar to muscle. So you start losing too much of your fatty tissue, which, by the way, we need to have fat because your nervous system can't function properly without fat. Right? You have parts of the nervous system that needs fat around certain parts of the nervous system for connectivity, right? So, and also exhaustion, right? So if you're exhausted all the time, it could be plasma, it could be fat. Okay, bone, that's the next tissue. And here's how you know you have a deficiency in your bone tissue. Your hair is falling out, your nails, your teeth are not healthy, they're not growing healthy, and they're thin. And also loose joints. So not cracking, but loose, like they're not stable. Okay, so that's a sign that you have issues at the level of the bone. And then the marrow, that's the next tissue, which by the way relates to the nervous system. And that shows up in the body as thinness, weakness. Your bone density weakens, and you have nervous system issues, right? So nervous system issues are going to show up as tics, worrying, kind of like shaking, can't stop moving. It just shows up in a way where you just can't settle down, right? Can't sleep. So insomnia is often one of the signs. So that's that. And then the reproductive system. Finally, if you are depleted in the reproductive system, you have weakness, dry mouth. You have issues with exertion. It's difficult for you to exert. So motivation issues, impotency, not having the ability to ejaculate, right? You can't. There's nothing there. You're empty. All right. And by the way, after all these tissues, below the reproductive tissue is your ojas. So if you are depleted in any of these tissues, there is a good chance that your tank is empty. Your ojas is empty. And you better get on it and start figuring out how to build ojas. And I have talked about that, but it's really important to get enough rest, to have a routine, to make sure that you are eating the right kinds of foods that help build ojas, nourishing foods, foods that are easy to absorb, right? And if you're eating junk food, you are not helping yourself. Okay. So that's just kind of a little interesting thing on what happens if we have depletion. And this is that time of the year where it shows up and how it shows up in your tissues. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and end that.